Okay, kids, it's part 3 of After Hours with Rictor with Bobo from Finding Bigfoot. And joining me once again is Melissa Adair and Rob Gaudet from Squatch Unlimited. Now, in this final segment, Bobo shares with us what his thoughts are on what zapping is in regards to Bigfoot. He even takes a couple questions from his fans and shares with us what his thoughts are on Dr. Ketchum and what was submitted to her for DNA analysis. Okay, now the highlight of this webcast is definitely Melissa Adair sharing with us and Bobo 2 hysterical stories. You don't want to miss this. Oh, and also of note, Bobo will be coming back for a special After Hours addendum. I guess he has more to share with us. Welcome to After Hours. My name is Rictor. I am your host.
Rictor!
What?
Leave him alone! It's Judgment Day for Sasquatch.
Thanks for dropping me like a stud.
Now we got Rictor going. We're going to have to hear about it all night. That's a bunch of screaming memes out there, and that's the scoop that has been reported so far.
By your opinion that you are no-kill, you are dooming the species to be extinct.
Well, when you don't believe in Bigfoot, everything you see that might be one is something else.
We thought that we had the holy grail of DNA.
When are we going to make a video, Rictor? And I mean not an X-rated one.
Dr. Todd, you've also been called the scoff dick.
Yeah, well.
You can't talk about
I can't!
Hello? Is this thing on? Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Hey, Rictor, I've got a question for you. How does it feel to lose Bigfoot bounty?
My question is, why do you think Bigfoot is real?
Hey, Matt, I want to lick your butt.
Shut up! I heard a response and he stepped on it.
Rictor!
Welcome to part 3 of our After Hours with Rictor webcast with James Bobo Fay from Finding Bigfoot. We're here at last to the final part, and joining me once again is the beautiful Melissa Adair from Squatch Unlimited. Hey, Melissa, what have you been doing out there in the swamps?
We have been looking for Bigfoot all over Louisiana, and we're getting closer every time we go out in the woods.
And her partner in crime, Rob Gaudet. Hey, Rob, where you been squatching?
We've been hitting some areas now where they have some pretty crazy stuff in South Texas and in central Louisiana and in Fouke and several other places.
I personally love to razz Rob about the Ruggaroo, because even though I think the Ruggaroo is probably real, because somebody I care for had his own Ruggaroo experience.
Rictor, did you just say you think the Ruggaroo is real?
There's something there. I think it's an offshoot of a Sasquatch from inbreeding, absolutely, because that's the easiest explanation, like Occam's razor. You know, the easiest explanation tends to be the right one. You know, it's not...
I told you guys were asking my opinion about the Ruggaroo earlier and Wolfman and all that. I have an opinion about it, but mine is a pretty uninformed opinion. That's why I said I don't know. Like I can have an opinion, but my opinion is way less valid than yours because you've researched it, you've talked to the people, you've done your homework on it. Your opinion is much more valid than mine.
Yeah, I'll tell you that. I mean, in all frankness, I'm not an expert on it.
Right. Well, I like that.
Moving on, the whole zapping thing that people talk about. Could it be just infrasound, Bobo? I mean, come on, really? Bigfoot zapping? Come on, tell me, Bobo, tell me.
No, I've had it happen to me, and I've talked to PhDs about this, and I was convinced 100% that it was absolutely some kind of beam hitting me. Yeah, I've known Leela Heischig, Dr. Heischig was at the Kentucky site where the pancake footage was gotten and all that.
Oh, that pancake footage. Is that for real?
I've seen that pancake footage is wild. I've seen that.
Yeah, she went, she's a PhD from Cornell, and she's really spent a lot of time looking at it, what can explain to that. And she put me in touch with a couple other people that, other PhDs she knew from Cornell and blah, blah, but so they were telling me, it could definitely be a reaction from pheromones, gives your body these sensations, and your mind will tell you, this is what's happening, and it's your body's experiencing that, but as you experience it, that is not necessarily what's I felt it as like a laser beam hitting me in the back. And they were saying it could be the pheromone coming in, and that's the reaction of my nervous system to that pheromone. Or, you know, it could be infrasound. You know, we really don't know. It's all just conjecture, really.
Gosh, I really want to experience that, so I can say for myself
It's
what it felt
freaky.
like. You know, to have something like that happen and have people poo-poo you, it's got to suck.
Well, yeah, I like I say that. People say, well, it's just fear, it's just fear, it's just fear. It's like, well, I've been face to face with great white sharks, but I didn't panic. I didn't like get an upper heart rate. Like I've had, you know, walking around California out in all those Indian reservations, trespassing, you know, those pot gardens and stuff. I've had guns shoved in my face, and I don't panic. I stay calm. And a couple times that stuff hit me like that, it had like tears coming out of my eyes, my body trembling uncontrollably. I couldn't breathe right, like massive headache. And after it's over, you just feel like you went through the ringer. It's pretty insane.
We have a couple questions from your fans, actually, this late in the game. Shelly Covington-Montana asked, what is the most...
Shelly.
What's that? You know her?
Oh, yeah, we know Shelly.
She wants to know...
She was out with us in Oklahoma recently.
What is the most important equipment in the field, Bobo? Who do you look up to or admire in the Bigfoot world? So, equipment, and who do you admire?
Obviously, for equipment, I think thermal, like a well-focused, like, you really got to practice with it. And for in the field, by far the top guy for sure is John Manchinski, Meldrum's field partner.
What about academically?
Yeah, that's Meldrum. He's not perfect. He's made some mistakes. He's made some bad calls, but he's still the best. And he's the guy I look to for, you know, insight on scientific development. And you know, I'm not just saying this because he's one of my best friends and I work with him, but Cliff Barker, man, what he's done with just how he runs his whole scene and how dedicated he is and how much he keeps the enthusiasm and how much energy and time he puts into squatching and what he's done with the orangutan deck. I mean, I put him near the top. So you got to give Ron Moorhead a lot of props. He's been doing it for a long time, and you got the Sierra sounds. I mean, it's one thing to have all these experiences like I have, but
well, these guys, they all document it and document it well.
And there's a lot of good squatchers out there. We just met a guy in Kentucky. The guy's collected more casts than probably anybody. He's done a great job documenting stuff, and the best squatchers out there are people you've never heard of. They're people that quietly, you know, outdoors type people. They've been just really paying attention, and they understand squatch behavior really well. I talk to those people, and they blow my mind. And there's a lot of them, you know, people don't know who they are, but I'd say, yeah, the top guys would be Meldrum, Manchinski, Cliff.
Bart Gutino?
Oh, yeah, Bart too, but Bart, Cliff's job is Bigfooting. I mean, Cliff is full-time. Bart, for a guy with kids and a career and married and other priorities, like, Bart is as dedicated as it gets, and nobody holds the thermal up to their eye as long as Bart does every night. I mean, it's hard physically it's hard to do that, and it blows your eyeball out. And when you go out with Bart, like when I go out Thurman, like when I'm Thurman, who's ever with me, like I just pass the Thurman back and forth. When you're with Bart...
Well, Bart's the type of guy that he might let you take a look through the thermal, but he's going to have that attached to his eye all night long. Okay, so the Reverend Jeff Kelly from the Squatchers Lounge wants to tell us the story about Bigfoot and Fireball. Who's Fireball?
Bigfoot and Fireball?
Yeah, your dad.
That's my dad's Fireball. And everyone always asks how to get that name. Well, when he was in high school, he was a pitcher, and he threw in the high 90s, so they called him Fireball. Then he blew his arm out. He set the U.S. Army record for furthest hand grenade throw. They brought the generals down one day and said, throw the grenade, and he threw it as hard as he could, and he snapped his tendon in his elbow, so he ended his pitching career. That's why they call him Fireball. He was very, very skeptical. My parents were super embarrassed when I was so into Bigfooting, and, you know, that's what I wanted to do, and, you know, I took off, you know, back in the 80s I was doing this, you know, and, you know, just all talked about it. I was obsessed. I got my dad to go on the 2004 BFR expedition to New Mexico on the Hickory Apache Res, and we were way out on the end of the road. And if you've ever been in this part of the country, understand how desolate, remote it is. And we were way out on the Continental Divide. There's no way to get into the property from the backside. I think it was 20-something miles to the next settlement where their houses were, going that way. And the property we were on was the chief of police for the tribe, and he was known as a real hard-ass, like, don't screw with this guy. He would just beat the crap out of, suspects. And if he caught someone out near his property, I guess he caught a couple guys near his property, he'd just pound them with a nightstick, handcuff them, put them in the trunk of his police car, and drive up and down the roads as fast as he could for like 2 hours, just bounce the shit out of him in the back of his truck. So, like, no one's out messing around this guy's property. My dad heard, because the Apaches still speak Apache out there, and he thought he heard Apaches talking and sounding like kids, and he heard a big, loud, deep, guttural voice, like shushing the younger ones, and they'd go quiet. They'd go quiet, and he was changing his clothes, and as he was changing his little butt hugger, teddy weddy underwears, he was putting his leg through, and he caught his toe and stumbled and fell to his knees on the ground, and they broke out laughing. He yelled, "Who the hell's up there? Shut the hell up!" And all of a sudden there was just running, and it was a barn. I think it was 14 feet from the hayloft to the ground. It was running through the back of the barn, and they just jumped out, hit the ground running, and just kept running. And we found a 15 to 16-inch footprint in a piece of corrugated metal that was behind the barn out in the field that one of them stepped on. And, I mean, it was for sure a Squatch, and he thought, well, it must be, natives talking, because it wasn't English, and it was this weird kind of guttural, kind of, weird sound language. Wow. But they had to be people because they giggled, and he was tripping. And then that's where I had my best sighting was, I think it was the next, I can't remember, it might have been a couple nights. I gotta look at my notes. I had my best sighting right near that barn that same week, and saw one. And Kevin Jones, the colonel, he saw one that trip. Tracy Hergstead, she saw one that trip. I mean, they were there. One of the best calls I ever heard. Thing just in this crazy howl roar right outside of camp. And after it got daylight one morning, we stayed up till daylight, and it's this thing that was a crazy call. But so he after that event, he was there when we saw it. He saw that we weren't lying, how we were talking about it, and what he heard. He was definitely a lot more open to the possibility of him being real. But he's kind of one of those guys. My mom said she'll kill him and throw him out of the house if he ever says he thinks Bigfoot's real, for sure.
Oh, your mom's awesome.
Don't mess with her.
Yeah. Bobo, you enjoy potty humor, right? Like fart jokes?
Immensely.
Melissa, I believe you have a story to tell Bobo.
I do not have a story.
Oh, let me tell it then. Melissa is out squatching. Do you want to continue, Melissa, or do you want me to tell the story?
Okay, I'll tell it. Okay, so I was out squatching in northern Arkansas with some of my very good buddies and my friend Angela, the other Bigfoot chick. This was before I met Rob. And I, as camp food has its way of making us all a little gassy, I became the victim of such a meal. And so I made my way over to the campfire, which was abandoned when I decided to head that way, away from everyone, so as to not be offensive in any way. And of course, as I sat down by the campfire, somebody walks up right at the moment that I had to, release the gas. And in an effort to cover, I started to cough. But the problem was my cough didn't sync with my fart. So
whatever Melissa coughs, you know what she did.
And so I got busted in a major way by Max, my friend that we've been squatching with for a long time, and he pointed and yelled and said, "I knew what you did." So for the rest of that trip, the guys would walk past me and fart on purpose and then turn their head and cough. So, yeah.
Don't you have a name for that?
Yeah.
Didn't they give you a name?
No, that was Matt Moneymaker that gave me a different name, and that was a good story. I was on a BFRO expedition in South Georgia, and we were going down a dusty road. Again, this was the very first trip that I brought Angela into Bigfooting before we became the Bigfoot Chicks. And so anyway, we were going down this really dusty road with, I don't know, 15 or so cars, and it was, my windshield became, covered, and I couldn't see very well, and I made the mistake of using the windshield wiper fluid to try to wipe off my windshield so I could see better. And Matt Moneymaker was in the car behind me, and when I did that, the windshield wiper stuff went over my car and hit his car, and so we were all on the radio, and Matt gets on the radio and says, "Melissa, you're squirting." and I didn't miss a beat. I picked up the radio and said, "I'm sorry, Matt. That happens sometimes when I get excited." And so from then on, I was known as Squirt for the rest of that expedition, and then later expeditions too. So yeah.
From now on,
you remember me as Squirt. Yep.
Gassy squirter. Okay, this question comes from Fred Caney. Ask Bobo what's the closest he's ever come to a squatch while squatching.
Either in the back of my truck sleeping, or not sleeping, laying there, or in a tent. I've had them walk 3 to 4 feet of me, but that time of the daylight, what I told you about, where my buddy and I ran around that bush, we were probably within 10, 12 feet of one that time, and then I don't know what happened to that thing. That's the one that disappeared. Or another one was when that night I had before when I had my first sighting on May 26, 2001. On May 21st, 5 days earlier, I had my gnarliest, craziest, like the first night I knew for absolute fact Bigfoot was a real experience. That scared the living. It was still the scariest moment of my life. I had one walk up behind me, and that was the one where I thought it was a laser between my shoulder blades, like back of my neck and head and all that, where I started just vibrating, and that thing was standing no more than 6 or 7 feet from me, right behind me to the side.
Hey, I wanted to ask a question, Bobo. In one of the earlier episodes, you guys got like a full body of what I thought was a squatch on your thermal. Do you remember it like running through the woods?
It was Moneymaker running through the woods, and they were trying to.
There's something on the hill.
Because they had just come off doing that shit. Yeah. They had just come. That production company and that crew had just come off doing Destination Truth.
Okay.
So they were used to doing stuff like that, and the first 3 episodes they did stuff like that. And then I just flipped out and I quit. I was like, I am not part of it. I will not be involved in this bullshit. And our ratings tripled when people saw we were legit. We weren't faking things, and that we were sincere, and we weren't going to because they thought we had to show a Bigfoot thermal clip every week, or people wouldn't tune it out. And so we've that time there was something on the hill when Moneymaker chased it. Yeah, that could have been that. Very well could have been a squatch. We'll never know.
That's what Cliff thinks was. He thinks it was a Sasquatch, and that was his first Bigfoot sighting. He believes Matt Moneymaker, quote unquote, his colleague, ruined it for him.
Have you actually seen a Sasquatch? And if you have, could you describe your encounter?
Maybe. I either saw a Sasquatch or a human where most humans ought not to have been. It was during the filming of the North Carolina episode, and actually some of it got on camera, but remember when Matt chased the thing off the hill?
There's something on the hill!
In that particular episode, they showed something running up the hill, but that was Matt. Like, the thing in the thermal imager was Matt, followed by a couple camera guys. We were on break, and it was like 2 in the morning. We're 2 miles off trail at a place where there had been repeated activity. We're there to investigate with the witnesses and stuff. We're doing a night investigation out there. And we're on break, and Matt has the therm, and he starts yelling, "Who's on the hill?" You know, that sort of thing. And we're going, "No one's on the hill, Matt. Somebody's on the hill," you know. And a very long story made short, Matt yelled at it. It started moving. He demanded that thing identify itself, and then whatever that was froze on one foot in mid-stride, which is a Bigfoot habit, which is a Bigfoot behavior.
I've always wondered about that episode. I mean, it's kind of been the one unanswered question for me in all the episodes I've watched that you guys have had. And
he was drinking insane amounts of Red Bull. He would dump Red Bull. He would dump 5-hour energy drinks into Red Bull and drink 4, 5, 6 things like that, and just be going bonkers. And they were changing the what happened was it got so cold that night.
Now, Bobo, you told me that you guys have had the worst luck with your equipment freezing. Was something about the barrel connectors not working right with the cold?
The barrel connectors got ice crystals. We were in the process of fixing mats when Encliffe both, and if he just would have held still literally for 5 to 10 seconds more, we would have had that footage recorded, and we would have known, because and then it took off up the hill with no light, and it looked up the hill really fast, and Matt insists it was a drunk hillbilly, and maybe it was, but I'm not sure. We'll never know. We'll never know what it was, but I heard a grunt growl that night that I made the hair on my body stand up, and then I ended up staying out there that night by myself. I just stayed out there in a tent. I froze. So it rained on us, and it got clear and dropped down to 22 degrees. By the time those guys left, by morning it was like 16 degrees, and I sat out there all night wet, just shivering in that tent. And something walked around the camp that night, but I never got it on therm. The therm froze again, and I never saw it. It could have been a Squatch. It really could have.
Bigfoot, it turns out, is real. According to one group of researchers, they say that they may have DNA to prove it. Look at these pictures. You can see for yourself, obviously. That is Sasquatch, and it is real. We told you first last week about these folks at the Sasquatch Genome Project. They presented these photos in Texas, and they claim to have tissue samples, DNA, blood, hair, video evidence of what they say is a female Bigfoot human hybrid creature. They say they found it in the backwoods of Kentucky. Joining us now is Dr. Melba Ketchum, a genetic scientist with the Sasquatch Genome Project. Doctor, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell me,
for having me.
We've all been watching this movie since we were kids, seeing the male version sort of stalking through the woods and looking very real. But, I think most folks have a lot of skepticism, I think it's safe to say, about all this. How come you don't?
Oh, well, I didn't believe in them when I started the study. I had no idea that I would find anything novel at all. I really believed that they would be I would disprove it instead. But it all changed when I had some samples come in that were a little bit different. Piqued my curiosity when the community found out we would test the samples.
How many of them do you think are out there?
Oh, there's thousands, literally.
Thousands of Sasquatch. And
there's many
is in
of them.
Kentucky, right?
No, this is all over North America and Canada.
Okay.
In fact, they're worldwide.
What's this done to you? You said it's been actually kind of hard on you.
Oh, it's been rather painful. I was naive when I went into this. I thought science would welcome new information if it was available. I didn't believe it.
But you do believe it now?
Oh, yes, I have to believe it. Not only does the DNA data prove it, but I've actually seen them at this point. Brought some of the people that were at our news conference, invited me, and I actually have seen them now.
The Ketchum debate, I know that's kind of like, beating a dead horse, but were you like me and hoping that she was going to produce the goods, or were you always kind of a skeptic when it came to Dr. Ketchum?
I was definitely super excited and hopeful about it because I know Bigfoot's real. I've seen them. I know they're real. So, and I know the people that turned in some of those samples, and I'm sure she got real samples. Like, some of them had to be real. It's just such a tragedy that she got the best samples that people have been holding for 40 years sometimes, and I mean, there's absolutely no hope now for that. It's just such a clusterfuck. But what for me was like I had Paul Graves tell me like he'd been in meetings with scientists that were involved. Wally Hersom. Wally's a real good friend of mine. I was just out in LA a couple weeks ago, and I stayed at Wally's house for a couple of nights. We hung out and talked, till 3, 4 in the morning, and about all kinds of stuff, and about that, and I had Wally and Derek Randall's another guy I respect a lot. Tell me, hey, it's the real deal. They were telling me they spoke to their scientists who were corroborating what she was telling them. So I had Derek, Paul, Wally, and guys I super respect to tell me it's the real deal. And they kept saying, there's evidence you're not seeing that we have that is going to blow the world's mind.
In December 2009, we were already far enough along to know we had to test more stuff. And we found Melba Ketchum and talked to her. And she was very receptive. She was okay. It sounded good. So I went to Texas and met with her with a toenail. And I talked to her I was there 3 or 4 days. And she said, this is interesting. Let's get started. I paid her some money to start on the toenail. And she tested it and the whole genome. And she says, well, it looks like it's within human ranges. I said, okay, that's fine. What did I expect anyway? So maybe it's a hoax, but maybe not. How do you find out? Test another one. So we tested some other DNA from a different researcher. And lo and behold, of all things, it came out with the same mitochondrial eve. And I said, Melba, we're onto something here. I can't even sleep because how is that possible that you'd get that close a match on your first 2 tries? Sample 1 and sample 2, nothing in between. What's the odds of that? And then I ran my calculations statistically, and the odds were 2% that they could have been hoaxes or misidentifications or just random humans, and 98% that they were not random humans or misidentifications, that they were a new species, subspecies that was evolving. So then Adrian Erickson and I talked to Ketchum and said, look, you got to get testing the nuclear. And she agreed, but she says, pay me and then I'll do it. So Adrian paid her for nuclear testing. I don't have that kind of money. And she did it, and she gave me some results for 3 samples 1, 2, and 4 actually. And they were non-human. Not by a lot, but by enough to say that these weren't human. But nobody knows how to connect the dots. So they don't think like an engineer, they think like a geneticist. They take each piece of evidence on its own with no connecting the dots. That particular insight, which is what I call connecting the dots, I told Ketchum about it. She picked up on it. She's a smart woman. And she said, let's go and test the nuclear. And when she tested that, she said, she must have said, holy smokes. And then she lawyered up. And our relationship went to hell in a handbasket. She asked me to sign an NDA that was so ridiculous. My lawyer said, that's ridiculous. You couldn't even enforce that thing anyway. No, of course you shouldn't sign it.
You and Adrian Erickson, were you kind of ousted from this study because you wouldn't agree to her terms?
Yes.
How's that sitting with you right now?
People are people. And I offered to sign the same one we had first. She didn't, her lawyer, I should say, her lawyer didn't like that. Mm-hmm. And she was ticked off at me because I would talk to folks like you. She didn't want anything out there. She didn't even want me to talk to Adrian Erickson. And he furnished some of the samples. But she's a very secretive woman. And maybe she's right, but I think that's led to more confusion than anything. I think she's got something valuable to offer, and she wants to keep it secret, And I believe it's in the dollars. I do. Even though she's really ticked off at me in a lot of regards, it's all personal. It's not scientific. And it's because she doesn't want me talking, like on the here. But I'm talking. I mean, I don't have an NDA with her, so.
it's still unknown how much credit you're going to receive at this point in time.
She said she'd give me credit if I'd make a public apology, and if this is it, fine. If it's not it, it's not going to work.
Right.
I mean, it's what it is. I don't care. I'm not looking for notoriety. But we are doing a parallel DNA study. I have 6 samples sitting upstairs to be sent into the study, which is going to be done outside of North America.
One thing that really sucks is when I went on Conan O'Brien, I kind of should have not said so strongly, you know, like, hey, the evidence is for sure coming, because there was enough red flags at that point, and Clip was really telling me, dude, I would, you know, I don't know, man, I don't know, because Meldrum, I was with Meldrum when we went with, when we all met Justin for the first time, me, Bart, Eric, Wally, we all went out there, Meldrum, we all went out to go find the body, and we had, you know, tracking dog come out, and professional trackers, and this and that, and and Meldrum was saying at that time that Melba was a fraud, and the warning signs were all there. I was thinking, hey, some of those samples have to be real. I believe Justin, and so that's where I was at. But I mean, I obviously don't think that anymore.
Well, you know, she might have 10% real, true, awesome DNA, but the 90% that she's provided us with the Nephilim, you can't test the Bible, you can't test angels, and you do not buy your own peer review and scientific journal. What are you doing? You hold out, you wait. We waited 3 years for her shit. And look what happened. It turned out to be the biggest joke, and Wally Hersom is out of how many hundreds of thousands of dollars? A lot.
Yeah, he gave her close to $500,000.
And Bobo, she was trying to get even more money out of Wally, according to Justin Smea. Justin told us all about it. Wow. Oh my gosh. It gives me a headache.
The sample that you collected, you're pretty certain that it is bear, even though there's question with Melba Ketchum's analysis of the sample.
I don't put any weight in anything she says. Only because of her character. She showed me her character. She said, hey, I got a scam. We can hit up this rich guy, Wally, and we can get some money from him. What do you think about doing this? And I was like, no, that's not good. No, that's terrible.
Isn't that called extortion?
Fraud, something. I don't know. When I put that together, once you figure out somebody's character and you figure out it's bad, then you have something that you can base only their word off of. Might as well throw it out.
I'm kind of embarrassed now that I held out hope for as long as I did, because in hindsight, it's like, what the hell were we thinking? This chick, because Bart's one of my best friends. I talk to Bart all the time, and Bart and Justin are now best friends. And I mean, she called Justin and told him to destroy the samples with chlorine mix. You know, I mean, that right there was all you needed to know.
Yeah, it's a shame. It gave us great material to talk about and debate. And, you know, I even invited her on After Hours with Dr. Disatel, you know, apologizing for the mean, crass jokes that we've said, and we want to give her a fair chance to explain her case, and she never once gave me the consideration of no. She never responded. Instead, she made fun of Dean Cain, saying, I'm very disappointed in your choice with this new Bigfoot show. Always liked what you did in the past. It's just another disgusting harassment of the forest people. Ah! Girl, you're supposed to be a scientist. You were just given a professional invitation by Dr. Disatel from New York University to come and explain your findings, and you're going to go off about Dean Cain. Really. This tells you where this woman's mind's at. It's not here with the real world. It's not, you know, defending her evidence. The burden of proof lies with the person making the claim once again.
Well, it's kind of, is she mentally ill? I mean, is she a sick person, or is she just, I mean, she has to be mentally ill on some levels for the statements she's made and how she's acted, you know, I mean, you know, is she a sympathetic figure after all, like she's just kind of nuts, or is she just really this really kind of, I mean, just, you know, shyster that just fleeced Wally for tons of money?
Hey, Rob, did you buy the De Novo journal?
No, I didn't buy it. Oh, I didn't literally buy it, no. My wife is a scientist, though, and she has to go through peer review with her stuff. She actually does peer review journals for other scientists. And I mean, the results are only going to be as strong as the process, and if the process is weak, then you can't trust.
One of the doctors, Dr. Haskell Hart, posted in Team Squatch Unlimited that the 3 samples that he tested for Dr. Ketchum turned out to be canine, bear, and human, which contradicted what she was trying to say what they were. So he's coming public now with what he's found. So it's just, oh my gosh.
You know, you have to. There are cornerstones to science, and peer review is one of them, and everything has to be judged by that. And you know, the follow-up work on hers, was it peer reviewed? That's what you want to look at. And anything that isn't considered reliable from a scientific perspective should just be thrown out and move on. You know, it's as simple as that.
Right.
Hey man, hey you guys, I got a jam. Yam has just texted me. He's waiting in his room to start working on this book. We got to do.
It was great having you on After Hours officially and finally, and I can't wait to see you.
I look forward to meeting you guys in person sometime.
Thank you, man.
Yes, thanks. Likewise.
Oh, Bobo?
Yeah, it was
Bobo,
fun.
one quick question. Tammy Murray, my co-host, couldn't be here because she's like passed out sleeping. She always wanted to know about Monkey and how did you come to get Monkey. So give me a quick answer about Monkey.
There's no quick answer, and I'm supposed to not tell all these stories because they're in the book, but there's a very in-depth chapter about Monkey's whole coming into existence, how she was conceived, how she came into my care, and the whole monkey factor. But she's still rocking. She's at home right now and happy. And Yamarone's here, and he wants to say something.
Hey, okay, awesome.
Oh, hold on one second. Yes.
Hey,
man. Hi, Rictor.
Tom, how you been?
Fine. Yeah, doing fine.
This is your first time on After Hours. Wow, 2 firsts, Bobo and Tom Yamarone.
The same time.
You gonna break out into a song for us?
We're just no. I don't have an instrument.
Thank you so much for coming on. Tell Bobo he was awesome. Our best, greatest guest on After Hours. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, by far. It's so fun.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, I was over in my room, and then I came over and said, "Come on, we got to finish this up." And he said, "What have you been doing?" Been having a good phone call with you guys.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, and tell Bobo thank you for being a part of After Hours with Rictor.
So what do I say? Squatch Unlimited rules and
absolutely.
Right on. Hey, well, you guys have a good night. I'm glad to be on here on the tail end. Bye, Rob. Bye, Melissa.
Bye.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye. All right, you guys.
Hey, Bobo.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye, Bobo.
Hey, Bobo.
Good night.
This is Tom Yamarone saying have a great night and an even greater tomorrow.